Supply chains are facing unprecedented risks. Today, one of the biggest threats to supply chain resilience is cargo crime, costing businesses billions of euros in losses annually, and attacks on cargo facilities and modes of transport by organized crime groups and others are growing year over year. To mitigate these risks and prevent losses, businesses and law enforcement agencies need one key ingredient: intelligence. As the leading industry association for supply chain security and resilience, the TAPA APAC Intelligence System, TIS, provides this solution. With the support of law enforcement agencies and businesses manufacturing and moving goods throughout the Asia-Pacific region, TIS provides intelligence alerts and a unique incident database for hundreds of law enforcement officers in over 60 countries, assisting police investigations and the disruption of criminal groups. This intelligence enables companies to avoid cargo crime hotspots and to protect their supply chains operations from a criminal attack. TIS also allows thousands of registered users to see when, where and how cargo thefts are occurring, the modus operandi of criminals, the types of goods being stolen and the financial losses incurred. And TIS is more than just a crime database. Companies looking to optimize the resilience of their supply chains have full visibility of operators and locations of TAPA-certified facilities, TAPA-certified trucking providers, and secure truck parking locations meeting the association's security requirements. Downloading search information takes just seconds to complete. Users can also submit anonymous cargo crime incident reports to increase TAPA EMEA's database of incident intelligence using this simple form to record all relevant data. Every report helps us to help you. All data reported to TAPA APAC is verified before being entered into the TIS database. And when you select specific search data, the results will instantly appear in our Cargo Crime Monitor dashboard. Here, based on your chosen criteria, you can see all incidents and average and total losses. Our mapping tool shows where we have the most crime reports, the biggest single loss and its location, plus data and insight on the types of incidents, crime locations, modus operandi, and product categories of stolen goods. On the Comparison tab, you can also see annual and monthly crime trends, and registered TIS users can also export data for their own analysis. TAPA APAC can also provide API capabilities. Contact TIS at tapa-apac.org to learn more. Cargo crime intelligence gives us the knowledge and capability to protect supply chains. In the drive for supply chain resilience, we are stronger when we work together. Use TIS, feed TIS, and together we will continue to reduce the threat of cargo crime. You can submit your data securely and anonymously and increase the benefits for our entire cargo security community. Learn more about TAPA APAC at tapa-apac.org. Intelligent Supply Chain Resilience Solutions.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today for our TIS webinar titled Closing the Gaps, Enhancing Cargo Crime and Counterfeit Response Through Data Intelligence. My name is Chris and I'll be your host for today's session. As this database continues to grow, we are seeing a strong increase in counterfeit cases. Although we are seeing this increase in reported incidents, we are still noticing low numbers in cargo crime reported in some countries in Asia. Together, we have two industry experts who will be sharing their knowledge and inputs on the impact of these risks to the supply chain ecosystem. But before we jump in, for our viewers that are not yet familiar with this, let me provide a quick overview of the platform. This is a platform designed to support the supply chain ecosystem using a collaborative database that can provide insights and support in risk assessment strategies and planning. This houses the locations and information of TAPA FSR and TSR sites locations across the globe. Along with this information, this captures and stores cargo crime reports into a collaborative database from multiple sources, such as law enforcement partners, member companies, open media sources, and reports from individuals. This only captures key details regarding an incident while excluding names, products, and company brands to maintain anonymity, and uses the data to provide suggestions and analysis that corresponds to certain features of the platform, effectively providing to be useful to supply chain stakeholders. To start off this session, we're honored to have our TAPA Secretary, Mr. Julian Tan, with us to share a few opening remarks. Mr. Julian has been helping with showcasing the data analysis reports of this. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Julian Tan.
Hi, Chris. Thank you for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session. Um, I'm not going to bore you with a lot of data and details. I'll leave the exciting part to our speakers to present a little bit later. But what I wanted to share with you is this, is that increasingly data is helping us make informed decisions, especially around the complex environment of supply chain as a whole. Um, so what you would see in this session is you probably get to understand a little bit more about TIS, what it provides. It can it gives us cargo crime trends. It gives us counterfeit losses, what the impact is like, the modus operandi of certain types of theft that's done. And I think the takeaway is this: you can have TIS, but how do you utilize the data that's provided for you to then continue to operate an environment that's complex, but to also be able to use the data to sufficiently help you build credible and usable plans within your organization? So you have your FSR, you have your TSR, how that you can use, how can you can use that to then provide that level of planning that's required. Um, and what I will add for this platform, what is unique about this platform is what I love about it is that we have members who are coming forward to provide data. So it's member driven. Members are coming in, they're providing us with data, and those are what is exactly happening on the ground. So that makes a difference for us when we look at all the stats, the data, MOs, so on and so forth. Yeah. Um, so I'm not going to steal any more thunder from our speakers. Thank you all. Thank you once again. Thank you all very much for attending, and I will hand over now back to the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you so much for those words and for setting up today's discussion. Oh, okay, now let's begin with our first topic, the challenge of underreported incidents and why gaps in reporting matter will be discussed by Dr. Nick Chapman, the head of Cargo and Logistics Asia at Aon, and is a supply chain risk management professional with 13 years of experience gained in major cargo loss investigation, marine consulting, underwriting, and broking. Please welcome Dr. Nick Chapman.
Thank you, Chris. Good afternoon, everyone. Building on Chris's kind introduction, now at Aon, I lead our client engagement, retention, and growth across Asia when it comes to cargo and logistics clients. And central to those discussions are our supply chain risk management issues, trends, risks. And I've been engaged with TAPA for nearly a decade, first in EMEA and now in APAC. And I really truly believe in the benefit of utilizing TIS as a client, but also at different stakeholder level across the industry, not just as a platform for reporting, but also the publications that come alongside that. I think can be very powerful in lots of different ways, some of which will be explained later today. So therefore, it's a great pleasure for me to join you all today. As Chris mentioned, for my part of today's session, I'll be focusing on unreported cargo crime incidents, the gap in reporting and why that gap matters. So next slide, please, Chris. So first, let's start off, what is the problem? we're talking about the number of incidents that are happening right now, but which only those immediately affected by those incidents are aware of. So people on the call may be experiencing a difficulty that is not yet reported. That's intelligence and that's data in the supply chain ecosystem, as Chris referenced earlier. And some of those, in fact, many of those incidents may not end up being reported as a cargo crime. Sometimes that is due to a lack of formal documentation, which can hinder a proper investigation by authorities. One very common reasoning that I come across when I encounter a reporting gap problem during discussions with clients over the past decade or so is that there is a very real fear within clients that reporting this incident will have severe consequences for reputational damage, or even, if not quite that bad, maybe perhaps a commercial impact in contracts that they are executing. And I've seen this to be a powerful obstacle, even for those businesses who definitely see the advantage of using criminal incident data in their risk management strategies. And I have a number of clients throughout the years that have really utilized TIS and the reporting from TAPA, but refused to upload their own incidents. And that's the kind of problem we're talking about today. I think more generally, away from an individual business, but at a regional level and at a global level, there are often inconsistencies between how incidents are classified, how crimes are classified, where some jurisdictions overlap or where there's gaps in jurisdictions, and the amount of resources available to local law enforcement, to regional law enforcement, and to international law enforcement specifically for cargo theft reporting and investigation. Next slide, please, Chris. So, of course, we're all aware of the gap in underreported claims and incidences, but what, for those incidences that do get reported, then what are the limitations to, first of all, the reporting process, but then also the data that is reported? If we look at common limitations to the incident data that is reported, then a lack of data and detail and context around the incident. So it may be that just the bare minimum details are reported, which of course is some data and can be useful, but the more detail, the better when it comes to complex modus operandi and multi-layered risk management strategies. I think this is not unexpected in some ways, because the importance from the business that has suffered the incident or is the victim in this scenario is more often than not focused on trying to recover the items, to respond to the immediacy of the issue, and reporting is further back in their priorities at that time. So timely reporting, and when we eventually get round to reporting, the amount of detail present in those reports is often a limitation around incident reporting. Even when a business has decent reporting process in place, sometimes there can be limited awareness within the colleagues within the workforce around where they go, how they go, what they should be reporting. I think the most common incident reporting mechanism that most businesses are aware of is basically, let's go to the insurance policy, let's see if it's covered, and let's submit something that way. Outside of that, of course, that limits the reporting to the direct stakeholders impacted and prevents others, peers within the industry from benefiting. And I think that's one of the great things about the TIS platform and the working group that we'll hear more later from Chris is trying to raise awareness of that, within our own organizations for those on the call, but then also at industry events, using the data, using the reports that are available to promote why this is such a good idea and try and alleviate some of those limitations. I think not only I touched previously on limitations within law enforcement, but I think drilling down into a client level, there's often a lack of internal resource and formalized process around reporting and investigation of cargo crime incidents. It may be that many of us on the call, maybe it's just one person tasked in your organization with supply chain risk management, cargo crime specific incident reporting. Maybe there's a small team, maybe depending on the size of your organization. I think that discourages, it creates a bit of an uphill struggle to report incidents when they happen. But the worst part of that is that a lack of internal resource only fuels a perceived lack of reporting, a perceived lack of activity. And so when we come again to get investment to pursue these things within our own organization, that it becomes even more difficult to build a business case, and we get trapped in this negative feedback loop around improvement, investment, and implementing corrective actions. Next slide, please, Chris. So what are the consequences of underreporting? I think the one key message is that obviously, in short, it misrepresents the threat landscape for your operation. So Chris mentioned earlier that, you know, we've seen an increase in the number of cargo incidents, cargo crimes. In the past 5 years, definitely, I think there's been, you know, global situations that have been happening that have been behind that, but there is an overall upward trend. But we're also aware that the majority of incidents are still being underreported. So we're only seeing the peak of the iceberg. Underreporting generally, systemically, creates blind spots and weaknesses around the effectiveness of a proper supply chain risk management strategy and theft avoidance strategies. I think if you're building a supply chain risk management strategy for a particular lane that's really missing some key data that maybe what someone's aware of but hasn't reported around a new emerging modus operandi or around a new emerging product that's been targeted, then obviously there's immediate implications to how successful your risk management and theft prevention strategies are going to be. I think importantly, overall, underreporting, I think it goes against probably the intentions of most people on this call, and in that it allows criminal activity to go unchecked, unchallenged. If no one's reporting it, then there's no investigation, there's no follow-up, and it enables basically repeat offenders to continue without any deterrence. And I think overall, again, probably the name of many people on the call, it minimizes the number of opportunities for collaboration between stakeholders. We talk a lot in TIS working group about how we can improve engagement with stakeholders across the board, whether that's law enforcement, whether that's industry associations. The best possible story for us to tell is made up of more complete data, and more complete data, particularly for incidents where there's an overlap between different jurisdictions, between different countries, between different regions, then it may be that some data that's missing from those incidents is the key to pulling in stakeholders and grabbing their attention. Next slide, please, Chris. So I think the impact of underreporting is extremely powerful, actually. From a pure operational standpoint, intelligence with the potential to inform or improve a supply chain risk management strategy is lost. It's lost to the operation, and perhaps one or two individuals may be aware of the particular instance, but it's lost to the industry for sure. The industry is almost always behind criminal organizations as we're constantly responding to new innovative criminal approaches to our cargo. So a lack of reporting only increases that lag and slows us down in terms of playing catch up. I think in a wider context, as I touched on earlier, it contributes to a negative feedback loop around some of the limitations we've discussed, and particularly around that piece around investment and resource. Of course, we all know what an ideal scenario might be within our own risk management strategies, the ideal headcount, ideal responsibilities assigned to those headcounts. But actually, if we're not fully engaged with a reporting process, which really truly represents the threat to our product, the threat to our bottom line, the threat to our market share, the threat to our reputation, then I think it's very difficult to build a strong business case and get those investments signed off. And as I mentioned earlier, I think this is particularly important around a perceived lack of activity, a perceived lack of criminal activity, just purely through underreporting is quite a dangerous thing. I think there's also a need generally to bring together multiple data sources and stakeholders to create a strategic picture around how to address cargo crime at a holistic level. And that's a big undertaking. It's part of the mission of TIS and TAPA more widely globally about how we engage the industry, how we engage law enforcement to support our members. And I think, as I've mentioned a couple of times already, underreporting is only going to hinder that process, because it may be that a key piece of information critical to striking a new collaboration or critical to getting buy-in from an organization is not aware to the wider industry or to the teams driving that collaboration. So next slide, please, Chris. I think the importance of reporting all incidents should be clear by now. The key element of any theft prevention or risk management strategy is based on having the most up-to-date information and data available. And that allows businesses to make data-led decisions about risk, about how they perceive risk, about what risk they're willing to tolerate, what risk they would definitely want to avoid, what risk they want to transfer through insurance or manage and mitigate through, using the TAPA standards or security teams, etc. So to have a really mature, complex supply chain risk management strategy, data is essential to that. And I know we're going to hear more about that in a second from Chandran, but I think it's extremely important to acknowledge that data, as Julia mentioned, data is now key to all decisions about supply chain. So cargo crime is no different. From the clients that I engage with, those that have a mature view of supply chain, those that have the best supply chain visibility, i.e. where their stuff is at any one given time, are the ones that can make the best decisions, whether that be responding to a new market opportunity, whether that be responding to avoiding an unfolding situation. And all of that comes from data within the supply chain. Same applies specifically to cargo crime, whether that be investigation, avoidance, or at the other end, recovery actions. Essentially, if product is lost, in the case of theft, or in a counterfeit situation that we'll hear more about, slightly different, but they are extensions of the supply chain. So whatever your basic supply chain view of your product, your lane, where you're moving product, if a criminal is in charge of your product and they're taking it outside of that predicted lane, but it's still within the supply chain ecosystem. So all the data that you have available as normal in a normal situation, no criminal activity situation, can be used to minimize the impact of a criminal incident as it unfolds. Next slide, please, Chris. So I'd like to close out my section by again emphasizing some of those points. I think firstly, please go and use the TIS platform. I think it's extremely powerful, as I said before, for anyone building a supply chain risk management strategy. I think it's powerful for people trying to build collaboration. I think it provides actionable insights, which is the most important thing for everybody. And having a platform like TIS, where I know Chris is going to go in more detail later, but the anonymized reporting of incidents with as much detail as possible, but protecting your reputational concerns or your commercial concerns, it's a fantastic platform that really, I think in APAC we're driving, we're trying to improve. But as you can see from the graphic there, there's still quite a lot of data available for all of us to go and make use of. And now I sit as a broker. Before I used to investigate large losses. After that, I work with insurers to try and improve a client's risk management strategy. And now on the broking side, it matters for everyone involved in the industry because, if I take now as a broker as an example, we're constantly talking to clients about data-led decisions. And that applies to every aspect of risk. So what we ideally want to do is work with the client, improve their attitude towards risk over time, improve their risk management strategy, help support them, minimize the number of losses, but also throughout utilizing the data within that risk management space, tell the best story we can tell about that client. A lot of businesses is focused on getting the cheapest insurance deal they can get, biggest bang for their buck. The best risk transfer story to the underwriter is to go and say, hey, look at all these great things that my client's doing around risk management. Look at what their appetite towards risk is. These are the security measures they've got in place. This is the amount of visibility they have on this particular lane. If something happens, this is their escalation and this is their incident response. All of a sudden, the insurer is more comfortable and we get that better risk transfer outcome. So as I said before, my focus now on the broking side, people think, well, why am I still involved in this? But I think the link is very clear. And that's just one example of how TIS data in particular can be very powerful in helping our clients build the best story about their risk appetite. So with that, I will thank you and hand back to Chris.
All right. So thank you so much, Dr. Nick, for that informative discussion about the importance of unreported cargo crime and how to properly address this issue. Now, for our next topic, we'll be hearing from Mr. Chandran Mavala, an Amazon Senior Manager International, Region Security and Loss Prevention, and a Board of Director at TAPA APAC. Chandran has over 7,000 audits conducted, including regulatory and non-regulatory. Also, he is a former Board of Director, IATA APAC Region. Please welcome Mr. Chandran Mavala.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon to everyone. At the outset, thanks for all those people joined, and thanks to our prestigious TAPA members. Happy to be here in this platform today. I have around 27 plus years of corporate experience, basically a military veteran, worked for Indian Air Force for a decade, and then into the regulatory firms, many airlines, supply chain logistics, and into e-commerce at the moment. And with TAPA associated almost 15 plus years. That's all about me. Without wasting much time, quickly let us get on our topic. All right. So today we will explore the growing challenge of counterfeit in APAC, its operational impact, and essential response strategies. So counterfeiting has reached critical levels in APAC. You might have seen this slide, maybe a little astonishing, with a 60% share of global production we are contributing. We are seeing unprecedented sophistication counterfeit operations. This is not just about luxury goods anymore. It's affecting critical infrastructure and public safety. Let's break down the most impacted sectors. Luxury goods remain a prime target, but pharmaceuticals are particularly concerning due to health risk. Electronics counterfeiting threatens both consumer safety and supply chain integrity. Look at automotive parts. Counterfeiting creates significant safety hazards. Even daily consumer products are increasingly targeted. Next slide, please. What are the contributing factors? APAC's advanced manufacturing infrastructure is being exploited. Complex supply chain create multiple vulnerability points. Inconsistent regulations across borders create enforcement gaps. E-commerce, in particular, explosion has provided new distribution channels. Criminal networks increasingly sophisticated in the tech savvy. Next slide, please. So what are the operational risks? It is impacting the revenue. Revenue impact extends beyond direct sales to loss. Brand damage can be long-lasting and hard to quantify. Product liability poses serious legal and financial risks. Market share erosion occurs as consumers lose confidence and, most importantly, trust. Once it is lost, it is extremely difficult to rebuild. Next slide. So what are the supply chain vulnerabilities? Let's look into that quickly. Raw material substitution often goes undetected initially. Unauthorized subcontracting bypasses quality controls. Documentation fraud is becoming very much sophisticated. Parallel imports are being used to market counterfeit products, and quality control systems are being deliberately circumvented. Let's look at in the next slide about what are the legal and regulatory risks. IP violations are just the tip of the iceberg. Product safety, non-compliance creates significant liability. Cross-border enforcement remains challenging. What is the liability for corporate? Corporate liability can extend to unknowing participants. Regulatory penalties are increasing across jurisdictions. So it's really, really complicated things where we are facing at the moment. Next slide on the technology solutions, please. So how can we have those technology solutions to prevent this? Let's look at few. Blockchain. It will provide immune supply chain tracking. All helps detect sophisticated counterfeits. Digital watermarking, which is very important, adds another security layer. RFID integration enables real-time tracking. It is little complicated and challenging at the moment in the industry, but it is another solution. Smart packing provides consumer level verifications. So what can we look at? Operational controls. Next slide. On the operational controls, regular supply chain audits are essential. Vendor verification must be rigorous and ongoing. Quality assurance protocols need constant updating. So this is another most important things which most of the industries miss, and that is where these controls loses. Documentation control requires technological enhancement. We are getting into there. Employee training is crucial for detection and operation preventions. And when we talk all these controls, that is where even our TIS plays an important role, providing data and giving us the visibility. And if you ask me, TIS is like a GPS for us. It guides you. It provides a definite place where you want to reach and directs you with the data. And that is where we need the contribution from everybody to share those data in a common platform where TIS filters and provides to all our members so that you get a proper in advance knowledge and methods and even the information right in hand. What are we can improve or prevent in getting counterfeiting. Coming on the next slide, please. Enforcement strategy. So how can we do on this enforcement strategy? Cross-border cooperation is essential for success, right? Intelligence sharing, which I was talking about, again, it must be timely and accurate. Collaborate with customs needs technological support. Legal framework must be harmonized across regions. Coordination between agencies requires streamlining. So these are all the most strategy enforcement which should be looked on. How can we engage stakeholders? Industry coalitions, that is to strengthen the collective response. Uh, how can we do the better enforcement partnership with the government, right? Uh, educate our consumers, which will help reduce demand. Technology providers are key allies. Very importantly, law enforcement agencies need private sector support. So we need to collaborate with them, engage with them, and then work on and then preventing the counterfeiting. So what can be our considerations, future considerations? Digital counterfeiting is the next frontier. Lot of e-commerce which I have seen, we come across a lot of counterfeiting items. There are certain markets where counterfeiting comes in, and probably the engagement or enforcement strategy doesn't work at all. So that is where we should look at how can we prevent this digital counterfeiting. 3D printing process, new challenges, right? Uh, you all might have come across crypto markets are enabling anonymous transactions. Social media is becoming a major distribution channel. And that is where we have seen you find a lot of e-commerce platforms comes, which is probably come for a very small duration and people gets attracted with low price. And that is where uh, probably people get into there and then get this item, and once they get it they understand it is a counterfeit. So that is where social media when become a distribution channel for these, it is probably we need to take it a future consideration on really marketing on this and how can we prevent this. Deep fake technology threatens authentication systems, right? So what can be the strategic uh, priorities? Strengthen the regional coordination, invest in technologies going forward, right? We have probably, when I say in earlier my one of the logistics firm, we used to get a lot of uh, counterfeit uh, phones are returned by the customers. They order a new phone from the e-commerce platform, and then when it is returned, they return a counterfeit products. And those counterfeit products are not easily being verified by the associate who pick up this phone. And in a complicated market where we look at the volume of shipping, when the returns comes back, especially a place where it is collected, we don't have a sophisticated mechanism to check those whether it is a counterfeit or not. So ultimately what happens is when it go back to the warehouse, it get injected into our inventory as then that is not a seller fraud. That happens is it's unfortunately a customer abuse. So there are a lot of counterfeit markets are using customers as sellers to inject those counterfeit into the warehouses. And when the next order falls, these counterfeit items are going as a forward look to the customers. So how will you prevent those? And that is where we need a strong technology method to grade these, especially electronics and wireless items at the warehouse before it gets adding back to the inventory. And these are the places where the technology will help us a lot. Consumer educations will help us a lot, right? And probably as a responsive mechanism when we do an investigation and all those things, that is where the law enforcement agencies comes into the place, where we should take a strict uh, law related actions and to uh, publicize in the market, telling that to keep the deterrence. this is what will be the penalty, this will be the disciplinary action, this will be the legal action against those people, those who are involved. So that is where I was talking about. Technology provides key analysis. Consumer education help us reduce demand. Law enforcement agencies need our private sector support in order to ensure that these are all being taken care of well. All right. So if you can go to the strategic priorities slide, regional coordination must be strengthened. Technology investment is crucial for staying ahead. Legal frameworks need modernization. Capacity building requires sustained effort. Public awareness drives support for anti-counterfeiting efforts. Now, when we talk about the counterfeiting is one of the major problem. But what we have also come across is the lot of prohibited items injects, which is also not a topic today, but that is going to be a major issues in this uh, supply chain logistics going forward, because same like counterfeit, we don't have a banned item, narcotics, or a prohibited item getting injected to the market where a proper filter mechanism is not available. And with growing number of sellers in the APAC market and competitive prices, and then not much awareness customers have, all these complications are leading into rather fueling those counterfeit products manufacturers, and for uh, supplying banned or prohibited drugs into the supply chain logistics platform. So how can we prevent all those things? I go back to the same our earlier discussion. The prevention mainly we can do only with few things. One is about uh, technology solutions, have solid mechanism on supply chain tracking, like what I'm talking about, blockchain, probably digital watermarking. A lot of industries are into the RFID integration, right? Small package provides consumer level verifications. But having said that, more over and above, most important is whenever such issues comes up, reporting those incident issues, data to a common platform like TAPA, and TAPA collates those documents, give advance information as a case study to the members, tell that this is what has happened, this is the way it can happen, and this is the way you may have advancingly or proactively uh, working on not to have these recurrences. That is where, again, I insist, reiterate the importance of TAPA TAS as a platform. Right? With this, I stop my monologue at the moment, especially webinars are monologues. Sorry for that. And thank you for your attention. I welcome your questions and insight on how can we better address these challenges. That's all. Back to you, Chris. Jason.
Thank you, Chandran, for the in-depth dissection of the counterfeit issue in the APAC region. This has been seeing a jump in reported cases and product seizures related to counterfeit, in where counterfeit cases have already doubled compared to 2024. Now, I'll show a few summaries regarding to this information, and I'll start off with this as a trusted platform for cargo crime and counterfeiting reporting. So, as our speakers provide us with clear discussions on understanding the importance of reporting incidents to maintain a strong collaborative database and how this provides information to support the supply chain, I'll be taking the spotlight for a few moments to highlight also on the reporting features of this and that it can provide us with insights and analysis. So as of today, TIS has about 4,000 incidents across the APAC region alone, with incidents being recorded and reported each day. Right now, we are currently working on 140 incidents being verified and sanitized, while extracting only the important information such as how the cargo theft was done, the product type, the area in where it has occurred, and a few more sanitized details before these incidents start going live in the database. Sharing data with this provides the share whether an individual, company, or law enforcement agency with complete anonymity. By sharing cargo crime incidents with this, companies can gain a broader and stronger database in where they can utilize data to create user requested reports. And this greatly improves the resilient route planning tool as well. The route planning tool provides better alternative route suggestions the more data it receives, as each incident is reviewed meticulously and plotted in the map. So reporters of the cargo crime can rest assured that this only captures the generic names of the product and the city, town, or region which the theft has occurred. Now, this captures incident information through various channels, such as individual, company, TAPA member reports, LEA collaboration, and media sources. While the counterfeit incident category was also launched in September just last year. As of today, this has now recorded about 470 counterfeit incidents across the Asia Pacific. With a high number of these cases being captured every month, we have now separated the monthly report and provided a counterfeit focused report only. These reports are being shared with members to provide awareness and support in supply chain risk assessment strategies. So anyone can contribute to this and report cargo crime incidents with an easy to use reporting feature in the TIS platform, in where both logged in and logged off users can utilize the full feature of reporting an incident link. With this, I would like to inform as well that each TAPA membership has a complimentary TIS account that is ready for activation upon the company or PMR's request. Please reach out to this at tapaapac.org through your PMR to learn how to activate your company's TIS account access. And subscribe to Supply Chain News by TIS. It's our e-newsletter as well for our weekly dose of supply chain updates. So we will now be opening the floor for your questions. If you haven't submitted your questions yet, you may go ahead and do so in the chat to respect everyone's time. We will be answering just a few questions. Please do include your questions in the chat because any questions that are not answered will be separately answered through our webinar write-up at our upcoming this quarterly report for the third quarter coming out soon. You may also email your questions to this at tapaapac.org. So we'll be skimming through the questions here. We have one that is, how does the lack of consistent reporting affect insurance claims, investigations, and long-term risk assessments? I think Dr. Nick can handle this question.
Sure, thanks, Chris. Good question. I guess divide my answer between the claims resolution conversation we might have as a broker and the market approach conversation. So obviously underreporting, as we mentioned, creates blind spots in supply chain risk management strategy, as I said, but it also creates blind spots in both of those conversations. So firstly for claims made, then obviously we work mostly with clients and insurers to get claims paid. And a big part of our engagement with clients for a claim is to help them prepare a proper claims file, a proper claim submission to the insurer. The idea being we get everything in order on behalf of the business, submit to the insurance, get the claim paid. Obviously, having all the available details and information helps us to create a narrative around that, and to support successful claims and also recoveries, which is an important part. And I think missing any key data that's missing from that can really slow down the claims process and create a real pain point for many businesses. In terms of longer term risk assessment, then of course missing data creates a false picture of the situation. As I touched on earlier in my section, as a broker, we want to help our clients achieve the best possible risk transfer outcome when they come to purchase insurance from an underwriter. And a key part of that is being able to tell the best possible risk story about the client's appetite, about their risk management strategy. And if the story that we're telling is incomplete, then it obviously has a material impact on how insurers view the risk, how insurers' risk assessments may be undertaken, where they may be undertaken, maybe skewed towards one location when actually, because of underreporting, the client knows there's an issue elsewhere, but that's not the focus of the insurer. And so having complete, reducing the underreporting issue, having a complete story then gives us and the client a number of options available when it comes to securing the best risk transfer deal. Hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you, Dr. Nick. Let's see another question here. We have, what factors contribute to growth of counterfeit operations in APAC compared to other markets? I think Mr. Chandran can answer this one.
Sure. I think the good question. My slide started telling that 60% we contribute counterfeit into the global production. And question is, what are the factors contributing this growth in APAC? I should say, one, we have a good manufacturing infrastructure, extensive existing manufacturing capability and expertise we have in APAC. Second is access to the advanced production technology and equipment. So people are very easy, these manufacturers can copy and counterfeit their products. And we are famous for lower production and labor costs. Over and above, well-developed supplier networks. So these are all the manufacturing infrastructure, which is one of the major factors contributing this rapid growth of counterfeit. The second one is regulatory environment. Inconsistent enforcement across jurisdiction. I should not be telling this in this platform. There are countries you might have heard about. There is a place, they say this street you get duplicate items. Why? Because the inconsistent law enforcement across jurisdictions. Complex border regulations. Limited resource for IP protection enforcement. And then coming back to the same subject, varying penalty and consequences across countries. There are certain countries are famous for counterfeit products. I don't name it here, right? And that is a problem. That is because of the inconsistent enforcement. Coming, the third factor, I should say, market condition. Larger consumer base with varying purchasing power. Country like India, we have a big consumer base with varying purchase power. High demand for luxury and branded goods. Hence, people are not getting good demand for a luxury and branded goods. Michael Kors bag, it's very difficult for somebody to get it, buy it, right? So what we do? Easy. Price sensitive markets creating demand for cheaper alternatives. And well-established informal marketplace networks. So I should say these are all the three major factors which is contributing the rapid growth of counterfeit in APAC. One is manufacturing infrastructure. Second is regulatory environment. Third one is market conditions. Hope I answered the question.
Thank you, Chandran. Actually, I have a follow-up question on that. Is that what are the most common vulnerabilities that the counterfeiters exploit?
Common supply chain vulnerabilities, if you ask me, probably I should be telling about raw material sourcing, because difficulty tracking material origins, mixed uh, legitimate or illegitimate supply sources, limited verification of supplier credentials. We are very limited. Weak chain of custody of documentation. So the first vulnerability is the raw material sourcing. The second one, probably production phase, outsourced manufacturing with the limited oversight, third-party contractor risks. What else I can think about is probably excess production beyond authorized quantities, access to legitimate production specifications. And the other vulnerability is a distribution network, complex multi-country routing, mixed counterfeit inventories, limited visibility across supply chain nodes, corrupted documentation systems, right? So as you asked, what are the common supply chain vulnerabilities, I also have some recommendations here, which company can adapt. Probably, if I don't say, then it is not a right platform. There are a lot of our prestigious audience, right? So one is a technology solutions. We should implement track and trace systems. As I told earlier, every manufacturer should look at deploy blockchain for supply chain transparency. And now we are into an AI ML era. Use AI ML for anomaly detection and adopt smart packaging and authentication tools. Most of the companies are doing it now. So there are operational changes, strategic initiative, risk management. Those are all things we can do that. We can also have, see, if you ask me, success in combating counterfeit requires a multi-layered approach combining technology, operational challenges, and strategic partnership, which we have discussed earlier. Companies need to stay agile and regularly update their production measures as counterfeit continues to evolve their methods. Probably going forward, emerging technologies like what I told about blockchain, usage of AI will play an increasingly important role in supply chain security, though their effectiveness will depend on widespread adoption and standardization across industries. Looking forward to have a minimal counterfeit production in APAC. That's from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Chandran. And as we close off, maybe we can also ask Dr. Nick his suggestions on what can organizations take to encourage a stronger reporting culture within their operations.
I think, yeah, okay, from obviously most people on the call will be aware that having C-suite level buy-in top down is probably the ideal scenario. I think I've seen many businesses tackle that differently, have some success. I think at the very least, then those tasked with supply chain risk management have to have a clear mandate from the top down to those on the at the coalface in terms of what is the process, communicating the process, and what is the responsibility, who does what in that process. Those that communicate that regularly are successful. I think other strategies I've seen off the top of my head in my world where we come from, basically risk consulting and an insurance world, then those clients that tie some kind of performance matrix to the specific incident activity or loss ratio of that location, whether that be a positive or negative target, whether it's carrot or stick. I think that we've seen some very strong results there with businesses, for example, that might develop a key process for reducing the likelihood of cargo crime, roll it out to all the sites within the operation, and then report to all the other sites the successful uptake, any incidents that have happened, and have some kind of friendly competition within the business to try and outdo each other to really deliver on those processes. I've seen that a couple of times. Friendly competition is one thing. Another way about doing this can be from the insurance risk management level, coming down when we talk about insurance premiums distributed to individual sites, then that could be tied back to number of incidents or compliance or loss ratio. And I think these things can be very strong drivers in getting buy-in from the management of the sites. No one wants to be bottom, in really implementing those strategies that are being rolled out and communicated from the top down.
Thank you, Dr. Nick. So thank you for our incredible speakers for sharing their knowledge and experience. As we close off the webinar, we want to thank everyone for joining us today, and of course the TAPA APAC team for making this possible. We hope that you have benefited from this webinar and hope to see you in our next one. Let's work together to build a stronger, more resilient supply chain by making use of this and utilizing its comprehensive database. On behalf of the TAPA APAC team, thank you again and have a great afternoon ahead.
Thank you.